And speaking of misplaced priorities, Pakistan is handing out bumper hikes. Not for everyone though, only for top bureaucrats in management positions. They've been given a 45% hike. I'll repeat that for you. A 45% hike for top Pakistani bureaucrats. I know you have questions. Like, who are these valuable officials? What do they bring to the table? And can Pakistan afford it? A 45% hike, can they afford it? Well, these bureaucrats belong to a special class. They're not career civil servants. They come from the private sector. It was Islamabad's grand idea, use the private sector talent to turn the country around. And did it work? I think the IMF bailouts answer that question. Why then are they getting hikes? Well, the argument goes like this. People earn a lot more money in the private sector, so unless you offer them big paychecks, they will not shift. They will not come to work for the government. Also, the last salary revision was in 2017, so many officials say it was about time. But here's our question. Could this not have waited? Let's look at Pakistan's per capita income over the years. In 2021, it was $1,600. In 2022, it was $1,700. And this year, in 2023, it has fallen to $1,500. So Pakistanis are now earning less, plus things are getting more expensive. Pakistan's overall inflation is around 27%. Food prices are up more than 30% inflation. So simply put, life is very hard in Pakistan. The World Bank sounded an alarm last month. It said 40% of Pakistanis are now poor. 40% of Pakistan's population is now poor. More than 12 million people slipped into poverty this year. So I repeat my question. Was it really the time to announce a salary hike, and that to a 45%? And look at who is doing all of this. A caretaker prime minister. I don't know which dictionary Pakistan uses, but this doesn't sound like caretaking at all. Pakistan's law is very clear about it. The caretaker's job is to keep the government ticking, to look after day-to-day affairs. But the current one, Anwarul Haq Kakar, has gone beyond that, much beyond that. For starters, he spoke at the United Nations General Assembly. It's a speech reserved for heads of state or heads of government. But for Pakistan, the caretaker delivered that speech. He also traveled to China for the Belt and Road Summit. And now he's increasing the salary of bureaucrats. I'll tell you why this is important. Pakistan has just announced its general election dates. Voting will be held on February 11th next year, 2024, February 11, which means the caretaker government will remain in charge until then. It took charge in the month of August. So if you do the math, that's around 6 months. The International Monetary Fund could object to that. Their team landed in Pakistan today. Their job is to review Pakistan's checklist. You see, Islamabad is asking for a $3 billion bailout. The IMF has agreed, but with conditions, like increasing state revenue, hiking taxes, cutting subsidies. The IMF team will review the progress made, and if they're happy with the progress, the funds will be released. If not, Pakistan could be in trouble. Now, reports indicate the caretaker setup could be a red flag, especially if prolonged. It could put the IMF bailout at risk. As for the remaining checklist, Pakistan seems confident. This week, they jacked up gas prices. Around 57% households have been asked to pay a fixed tariff. And how much is that? Around 400 Pakistani rupees every month. That's around $1.4. It may not sound like much, but when your budgets barely balance, it's make or break.